What would you do if the person who was supposed to love you unconditionally turned out to be the one who wanted to destroy you? My name is Audrey Walsh. I am 31 years old, and the night I lost everything was not an accident. It was a choice, made by the woman who gave me life. I had built something real in Portland, Oregon. Unit 5C, 5th floor. A one-bedroom apartment that took me 8 years of freelance design work and careful saving to make feel like home. I had a life there. Quiet, steady, mine. My relationship with my mother Donna and my stepfather Frank had always been distant, the kind of cold that settles in slowly over years until you stop noticing it. I told myself that was just how some families were. I was wrong. That distance was not indifference. It was something far more dangerous. On the night of March 18th, at 2:53 in the morning, my smoke alarm tore me out of a dead sleep. The darkness was absolute, and before my eyes could adjust, my lungs already knew something was wrong. The smell hit me first, sharp, chemical, wrong in a way that animal instinct understands before the brain catches up. Fire. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and I ran. No shoes, no coat, just bare feet hitting cold concrete as I threw myself into the stairwell and counted 4 flights down in the dark, each breath burning, each step a prayer. When I burst through the exit door onto the sidewalk, the February air hit me like a wall of ice. I turned around. Orange light was pouring out of my 5th floor window. Everything I owned, 8 years of memories, every photograph, every piece of work I had ever been proud of, was burning. A firefighter approached me, his expression already telling me what his words confirmed a moment later. "Ma'am, everything inside that unit is gone." Gone. The word did not feel real. An elderly neighbor named Ellen appeared beside me and pressed a thin blanket around my shoulders. She looked up at the flames, then at me, and asked quietly, "Honey, do you have someone to call?" I opened my mouth and closed it again, because the honest answer was that I did not know. I called my mother at 3:20 in the morning, hands shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. The line rang 9 times before she picked up. Her voice was thick with sleep and irritation. Before I could finish explaining, I heard shuffling, and then Frank came on the line. His voice was flat and final. "That's not our problem, Audrey. You're old enough to handle your own mess." The call ended. I stood there staring at the screen and called back. It went straight to voicemail. They had blocked my number. That same night, while I was standing on a sidewalk in my pajamas watching my home burn down, my own mother had blocked my number. I sat down on the curb and pressed the phone against my chest and stared at the smoke rising orange against the dark sky. And then, slowly, a memory surfaced. 5 days earlier, Donna had shown up at my apartment unannounced. Her first visit in over 2 years. She had walked through every room, opened closets, asked careful questions about my lease, my insurance policy, whether I kept important documents at home. At the time, I had felt something close to happiness. I thought she missed me, sitting on that curb with ash in my hair and nothing but a thin blanket and a blocked phone number. I started to wonder if I had been completely wrong about what that visit meant. My coworker Tyler Nguyen picked me up just before 5 in the morning. He did not ask questions. He just handed me a cup of coffee the moment I got in the car and said, "Stay as long as you need." Sometimes the people who are not supposed to be your family are the only ones who show up like they are. 3 days later, when I finally felt steady enough to call my insurance company, I thought the hardest part was behind me. I had no idea that what was waiting for me on the other end of that call would change everything all over again. I walked into that insurance office thinking the hardest part was already behind me. I was wrong. What was waiting for me on the other side of that door was not paperwork. It was a blueprint for something I still could not bring myself to name. When I had called the claims line 3 days after the fire, the representative who answered, a man named Nathan, had paused in a way that felt wrong the moment I noticed it. He asked me to confirm my relationship to Donna Walsh and Frank Mercer. Not in a routine way, in the careful, measured way that people speak when they already know something you do not. He told me I needed to come in person. He would not say why over the phone. I did not sleep that night. The conference room was small and smelled like stale coffee. Nathan set a folder on the table and slid it toward me without a word. I opened it slowly, page by page, until I reached the last one. Beneficiary designation: Donna Walsh and Frank Mercer. 100%. $175,000. The signature at the bottom was mine, or something that looked exactly like mine. Nathan told me quietly that this form had been submitted 7 months ago, long before the fire, long before any of this. Then he pushed a second sheet across the table, a submission receipt. The change had not been made online or by mail. Someone had walked into that office in person, stood at the front counter, and filed this form by hand, in cash. Someone had come here and pretended to be me. I heard myself say, "I never signed this." My voice sounded like it was coming from somewhere far away. The next morning, I met Detective Sean Calloway at a coffee shop 2 blocks from the insurance office. He had 24 years in fire investigation, a handshake that meant business, and eyes that had seen enough to cut straight through anything that did not add up. He did not ease into it. He leaned forward, set down his cup, and said, "I don't think your fire was an accident." He showed me the evidence on his phone, photographs of the burn pattern near the outlet behind my bookshelf. No frayed wiring, no electrical surge, no mechanical failure of any kind. Then he looked at me directly and asked, "Who had access to your apartment the week before the fire?" I took a slow breath and said the words I had been circling around for days. "My mother." Calloway nodded once, slowly, the way a man nods when the last piece of a puzzle finally lands where it belongs. He told me the building's electronic key logs confirmed it. Only 2 people had entered Unit 5C that week, me and a woman whose description matched Donna Walsh exactly. Then, just before we stood to leave, Calloway set down his coffee and said, "Can I tell you something personal?" He told me about his sister. 16 years ago, her ex-husband had set fire to her house while she was at work, then told investigators she had done it herself to collect the insurance money. She spent 3 years and every dollar she had, proving she was innocent. It nearly destroyed her. He looked at me steadily and said, "She won, eventually, but it cost her everything. When I saw your file, forged signature, mother listed as sole beneficiary, I knew exactly what someone was trying to do to you. I am not going to let that happen." I did not say anything. I just nodded. That evening, sitting in the passenger seat of Tyler's car, while the lights of Portland moved past the window, I felt something shift quietly in my chest. For the first time since the night of the fire, I did not feel completely alone, but whatever small relief that was, did not last long. Because while I had been focused on building a case, my mother had already been making moves of her own. And this time, she was not coming after my money, she was coming after my mind. While Calloway and I were building a case from the outside, my mother was already working from the inside, and she was not trying to hide the money anymore. She was trying to make sure that anything I said would sound like the words of a woman who had lost her mind. Within days of my meeting with Calloway, my Aunt Carol called me. Her voice was soft and careful, the kind of tone people use when they think you are fragile. She said, "Honey, your mom is really worried about you. She says you've been under so much stress since the fire. Just please, don't say things you might regret." I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat very still for a long moment, because I understood exactly what was happening. Donna had gotten to her first. She had gotten to all of them. She had spent the days since my meeting with the insurance company, calling every family member she could reach, painting a picture of a grieving, unstable daughter who was saying dangerous and unfounded things. Later that same day, I opened my work email and found a message from HR marked urgent. An anonymous caller had reported concerns about my mental state following the fire, suggesting I was unfit to continue working. I read it twice. Tyler leaned over my shoulder, read it once, and said quietly, "This isn't concern, this is strategy." He was right. My mother was not just trying to steal my money. She was building a wall around my credibility before I could open my mouth. So I decided to make a move of my own. I called Donna that evening, keeping my voice easy and warm, giving her nothing to work with. I said, "Mom, I just wanted to thank you for coming by last week. It really meant a lot to me." She answered carefully, her tone sweet and measured. "Of course, sweetheart. I missed you." I let a beat pass, then said lightly, "Hey, quick question. Do you remember noticing anything unusual in my apartment?" The fire investigator keeps asking, and I'm trying to help them piece things together. The silence that followed lasted 4 full seconds. When she spoke again, her voice had changed completely, flat, controlled, stripped of all warmth. "You should not be speaking to those investigators without a lawyer present. They twist everything you say." I kept my voice steady. "Why would I need a lawyer, Mom? I'm the one who lost everything." I heard Frank's voice somewhere in the background, low and indistinct. Then the line went dead. I looked at my phone screen and noticed that my hands were completely still. A strange, cold clarity had settled in my chest. I texted Calloway, "We need to talk. I have more." The next morning, Calloway and I sat in the cramped office of the building manager, Mr. Briggs, watching security footage on a monitor mounted to the wall. The hallway camera on the 5th floor showed Donna arriving at 1:55 in the afternoon on the day of her visit, carrying a large black duffel bag over one shoulder. The timestamp showed her leaving at 4:48, empty-handed, no bag. We pulled the secondary exit camera near the service stairwell. Donna appeared again at 4:52, walking through the parking structure toward her car. Still no bag. She had left it inside my apartment. While Calloway and I were still processing that, his phone rang. He listened for less than 30 seconds, then set it face down on the desk. He told us the lab had finished analyzing the debris recovered near the outlet behind my bookshelf. It was an industrial plug-in timer, the kind used to trigger devices on a delay. The serial number traced back to a hardware chain store located 9 miles from Donna's house. The purchase had been made 9 days before the fire, paid for in cash. Briggs pulled up the store's external camera footage without being asked. A woman with brown hair and dark sunglasses stood at the register. I leaned closer to the screen. Around her wrist was a camel-colored leather handbag, the one I had given Donna for her birthday the previous year. I sat back in my chair. I did not cry. I just nodded once, slowly, and felt something inside me go very quiet and very certain. We had her, but we needed one more thing, and as it turned out, Donna was about to hand it to us herself. We had the footage. We had the timer. We had a woman on camera buying the device with cash while wearing a handbag I had given her. But evidence alone was not enough. We needed it airtight before anyone made a move. That was where Rebecca Stone came in. Rebecca was an attorney who specialized in insurance fraud, and she did not believe in softening things. She examined the beneficiary form under a magnifying glass, tracing the signature with one careful finger, and said, 3 hesitation marks. Your real signature is fluid, years of muscle memory. This one? Someone practiced. She told me the form had not been mailed in or submitted online. Someone had walked into the insurance office in person and handed it across the counter. The clerk who processed it still remembered her, a middle-aged woman with brown hair, well-dressed, who said she was handling paperwork on behalf of her daughter who was too busy with work. When Rebecca showed him a photo lineup, he identified Donna without a single moment of hesitation. Then Tyler called me that same afternoon with something that made everything else feel like a warm-up. While helping me recover files from a cloud backup, he had found a trail of deleted text messages exchanged between Donna and Frank, sent 3 weeks before the fire. A court order was filed to extract them. Rebecca looked at me across her desk and said simply, "When those messages come through, this is over." 3 days later, Donna called me. Her voice was honey-sweet, careful, and warm, in a way I had learned to distrust. She said there was going to be a small gathering at her house on Sunday, family coming together to check on me, to show support. "Everyone just wants to see that you're okay, sweetheart." I told her I would be there. She sounded genuinely surprised. I hung up and called Calloway. He told me to stay calm, let her run the performance, and that he would be parked 3 minutes away. On the drive over, I stopped at a red light and sat there longer than I needed to. My hands were tight on the steering wheel. I kept seeing 2 images that refused to overlap. Donna braiding my hair before the first day of 3rd grade, humming softly while I sat still on the bathroom counter. And that same woman, standing at a hardware store register, cash in hand, sunglasses on, buying a device designed to start a fire on a timer, while no one was watching. I could not make those two people into one. When I pulled up outside the house, Calloway was already parked 2 doors down. I sat in his passenger seat for a moment without speaking. He looked straight ahead. Then he said, "You ready?" I said, "No. Let's go anyway." There were 17 people inside. Donna stood near the fireplace in a cream dress and pearl earrings, the picture of a wounded, worried mother. The room was arranged the way a stage is arranged, every chair angled just right, every face already wearing the same careful expression of concern. Donna let the room settle, then began. Her voice broke on cue. "My own daughter has been telling people that we had something to do with the fire. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know how to reach her." Frank placed a hand on her shoulder and said in a flat, rehearsed tone, "She's not well. We love her, but we cannot keep enabling this." Every face in that room turned toward me with the same look. Pity, doubt, the particular sadness people feel when they have already decided what they believe. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Calloway. Got everything. 25 minutes. I stood up, said I needed some air, and walked out the front door. Behind me, I heard Donna exhale. I walked back in 4 minutes later. The room went quiet the moment I crossed the threshold. I looked at my mother, and kept my voice completely level. "Mom, I have one question. You told me you stopped by for 30 minutes the week before the fire, but the building logs say 3 hours, and they have cameras now." Donna went very still. Frank stared at the floor. I continued. "The bag you brought, the large black one, where did it go? You walked in with it. You did not walk out with it." The living room was absolutely silent. Aunt Carol's mouth fell open. Uncle Gerald set his glass down on the table without a sound. Frank's phone rang. He looked at the screen, and the color left his face completely. Donna looked at Frank. Frank could not look back at her. The doorbell rang. Uncle Gerald opened the door out of reflex. Calloway stepped inside, badge visible, 2 uniformed officers behind him. He crossed the room in 4 steps and said, "Donna Walsh, you are under arrest for arson in the 2nd degree and insurance fraud." Donna spun toward the room, mascara already beginning to run. "She set this up, all of it. You all see what she is doing to us." Frank's voice cracked open. "Donna, stop. I cannot do this. It was her idea, officer. All of it. I just went along. I never thought she would actually—" Donna screamed his name. The handcuffs clicked into place. That sound, small, metallic, final, rang through the silence of that living room, like something breaking that had needed to break for a long time. The police cars pulled away. The room felt like it had forgotten how to breathe. Aunt Carol was the first to move. She walked straight to me, tears running down her face, and said, "I should have asked you first. I am so sorry, honey." Uncle Gerald shook his head slowly and said in a rough voice, "Whatever you need. Legal costs, a place to stay. Family will be there. Real family." Cousin Brian said nothing at all. He just stood across the room and looked at me, the way people look at someone they are seeing clearly for the very first time. I looked around at all of them, the shock, the shame, the quiet devastation on every face, and I said gently, "Thank you. But I need some time to figure out who my real family actually is." No one argued. The trial was still ahead, but the hardest part was not going to be facing my mother in a courtroom. It was going to be facing myself on the other side of all of this. People say that justice is the ending, that once the verdict comes down, you can finally close the chapter and move on. What nobody tells you is that the courtroom is not the finish line. For me, it was just the first morning of a very long road back to myself. The weeks between the arrest and the sentencing were their own kind of damage. The church where Donna had organized the annual charity drive for 12 consecutive years quietly asked her not to return. Frank lost his job before the trial even began. Someone spray-painted their garage door twice, and the neighbors who had waved at them across the lawn for years suddenly found reasons not to make eye contact. Donna called anyone who would still pick up from the detention facility, telling them the evidence had been planted, that I had manipulated the investigators, that none of it was real. Aunt Carol met me for coffee one afternoon and reached across the table and took both of my hands. She said, "I should have listened to you from the beginning. I am so sorry. I told her she had not known. She shook her head and said, "I should have asked." We sat with that for a while without trying to fix it. Frank's gambling debts, which came out fully during the investigation, totaled just under $195,000, owed to people who did not send friendly reminders. That was what this had all been built on. That was the price my mother had decided my life was worth. The sentencing happened on a gray Thursday morning. Donna entered a guilty plea on all counts and was sentenced to 7 years in state prison, with the possibility of parole after 5. Frank had cooperated fully with prosecutors and testified against her. The recovered deleted messages between them, sent 3 weeks before the fire, confirmed he had known about the plan from the beginning and had helped conceal it afterward. He received 18 months suspended, 3 years of supervised probation, and mandatory enrollment in a gambling addiction treatment program. The judge made clear that a single violation would put him in a cell immediately. After legal fees, $158,000 was transferred into my account. A 10-year no-contact order was approved and filed the same afternoon. 2 months after sentencing, a letter arrived from the State Women's Correctional Facility. The handwriting on the envelope was Donna's, but smaller than I remembered, more careful, like someone who had learned to take up less space. I opened it. She wrote that she had done what she did out of fear, not hatred, that I was still her daughter, that she hoped I would come and see her, so she could explain. I sat at my kitchen table for a long time after reading it. Then I got out a piece of paper and wrote back, not to send, just for myself. I wrote, "The woman who raised me would never have tried to end my life for an insurance check. I do not need to understand who you are now. Do not write again." I folded it, put it in a drawer, and then contacted the Postal Service to block all incoming mail from that facility. Clean, final, done. That evening Tyler came over for dinner. He spotted the prison envelope in the recycling bin on his way to the kitchen. He did not say a word about it. He just opened the cabinet, pulled out a pan, and started cooking. That is the kind of person you want beside you when the world has shown you its worst. I started seeing a therapist named Dr. Harmon shortly after. During one of our early sessions, she asked me directly whether I had thought about forgiveness. I looked at the ceiling for a moment and then said, "Forgiveness is not my job right now. Healing is." She smiled and said, "That is growth." I moved into a new apartment that spring, smaller, quieter, on a street where nobody knew my name yet. I bought a guitar, not the same brand as the one I had lost in the fire, because nothing was going to be the same. But when I played it, I could still hear something familiar in the sound, something that felt like the first lesson, the first chord, the first time someone who loved me believed I could learn. The nightmares came less often. Some mornings I made coffee and sat by the window and just watched the city wake up, and that was enough. Fire destroys. Everyone knows that. But what it also does, if you survive it, is burn away every layer of pretending until all that is left is the truth about who loves you, the truth about who never did, and the truth about how strong you were the whole time, even when you did not know it. You are allowed to save yourself. You are allowed to walk away from the people who were supposed to protect you but chose not to. And you are allowed to build something new from whatever they could not take. The fire took everything I owned, but it could not touch who I am. And in the end, that was the only thing that ever mattered.